Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the weekly podcast where we discuss business, sports, politics, and whatever's on our mind. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. And joining me on camera on this episode of the 30-Minute Hour is Ted Fells, our business strategist extraordinaire and all-around good guy.
Hello, all.
Hello, all. All right.
But also, it's hot in here.
It's hot in here.
It's hot in here. So, air conditions out, I guess, on the weekends, but we're going to make the best of it. So, if I pass out, just pour some of this water on me or whatever, just keep the show going.
So, as you can see, we are transparent on the 30-Minute Hour. We keep it real, let you know what's really going on.
That's right.
Also joining me is Britton Smith. Britton is the Renaissance man. He's the man who refuses to be pigeonholed. Britton? Did we lose Britton?
Bridget must be in a pigeonhole.
Yeah, he refused to be pigeonholed, so he dropped off the line. We must have lost him somehow. Hopefully he'll call back in and we can get him back.
Britton, are you on mute?
Yeah, we must have disconnected from Britton.
No, well, he'll join back in when he can.
He's the wild card
Okay.
for the show.
You never know where he is. You never know if he's going to be on.
Right. He calls from a remote location. Like we always say, there's a remote chance that he's really where he says he is. Right? It's a remote location. Okay. Well, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on YouTube. All you have to do is type in the 30-Minute Hour into the search bar and you will find us. And as you've seen already, we are not your everyday podcast. We're not your normal podcast. So speaking of which, Ted, there's something that's on my mind.
Okay, all right. It's a good thing on a podcast.
Right, you should have some thoughts. That's
something
normally
on
helpful
your
on a
mind.
podcast
That's
to have
right.
some things that are on your mind.
Absolutely.
Here's what's on my mind. It's a question. Which problem do you want? That's what's on my mind. Which problem do you want? And I was inspired by this because I saw a study. They studied these lottery winners from Texas.
Okay.
That they won the lottery and then they tracked them like 20 years later. And it was something surprising. It was 70% of them said that winning the lottery was the worst thing that happened to them.
Wow.
I just thought that was crazy. You would think winning the lottery would be
Great thing.
a great thing. You know, I hear it like a lot of these studies, and a lot of times I think, well, you know what? Allow me to be a part of that study. Let's see if I can handle the seven figures
That's right.
and come out on the other side
That's right.
happy and fulfilled. But I thought that was interesting. I think the problem is, here's what I think about it. I think the problem is that we think that the next level is an escape from our current problems.
Okay.
And we think that next level. So we think, oh, you know what, I've got this issue. I don't like my current situation. If I could just win the lottery, that's going to make everything better. I'm not going to have any problems anymore. Right? Or, hey, I'm not making a lot of money, but once I get that promotion, everything is going to be much better.
Right.
Once I become a full-time entrepreneur like Ted, I'm not going to have any problems anymore. But it's a trade-off, and I don't think a lot of our listeners see that because they still come up to us, they come up to you. I want to be like you, Ted. So tell me, what you started in the government as an employee,
Sure.
and then you branched out to become CEO extraordinaire. Well, what were some of the problems that you traded off?
So in the government, just working for someone, right? You had to be
Right.
somewhere at a certain time every day.
Uh-huh.
You had someone telling you what you had to do,
Right.
and when you had to get it done. And then it was just, you just really didn't kind of control things a lot. Like you were put into certain places, you had to have certain things
Right.
done. So you were in a certain type of, in a box.
Right, you were in
the
a
most
box.
part. Some of your creativity, wasn't necessarily, as a value as you may want it to be.
Right.
So got this great idea. Yeah, that's good. We'll come back to that, right?
Right.
You know, so those are some of the types of things that you deal with. Now, fast forward to starting a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you still have someone that's kind of driving you. You have customers that drive you,
Right.
right? Sure, you can start the day whenever you want. Like people say to me all the time, Ted, you work for yourself. You don't even have to go in. You know, you can go in whatever time you want to go in.
Right.
You know, why are you working on the weekend?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They're right.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you don't kill it when you work for yourself, you don't eat. See, when I was working for the government, there was a check every 2 weeks.
Mm.
It was no question.
Right.
I didn't send out no invoice. I just had to go in and, fill out a time card, right? But there was a check every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some weeks that maybe I wasn't on my game. I still got the same check every 2 weeks.
Right.
And when you're working for yourself, you could be at your optimal level.
Right.
Like you're grinding it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be a check.
Right. So you're trading problems again. So the question is, which problem do you want? Do you want the problem of a lack of freedom, or do you want the problem of financial uncertainty?
It depends on what day of the week. There's been some times that I feel like, man, it was good knowing that I had that check coming.
Right.
Right. But then, there's, the things that you see when you start your own company and the company starts to, become successful and, some of those things. I mean, it's very rewarding, but,
right.
It's a benefit to both sides of this.
Right. It's a benefit to both sides.
Yeah.
But I think people miss that whole trade-off thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole asking themselves that question, well, what problem do you really want? That this next level isn't going to make me problem free.
Yeah.
And they need to understand that. It sounds like Britain might have joined back in.
Who knows? Like just somebody rang a bell.
Do I just ask?
Yeah.
Britain, are you there?
I am here.
So Britain, what happened? Did you just stop to get some pick of wings or something? I mean, how do you just drop
Did you
off?
get bored with the conversation, decide to hang up on us?
No, you know what? I stopped. I'm driving to the countryside, picked a few daisies, played in the wind a little bit, rolled in the grass.
All right.
But I'm back.
So, Britton, we were talking about this thing of which problem do you want, and how people think that the next level is an escape from their current problems, but in reality, it's just the next level is a graduation to a set of different problems. So, talk to us about that. I mean, you're the national political director for the Kappas, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and what's your experience with that whole idea of trading problems when you go to the next level?
It's very interesting, the concept of, trading problems and, we're always seeing something that looks better, looks glamorous, looks like we really want it, but not knowing what it costs to keep that or even obtain it. And it's interesting. I look at it as the same way every kid in the world always hated being a kid and wanted to grow up. Every kid wanted to say, I hate bedtimes, I hate going to school, I hate Brussels sprouts, I can't wait till I'm an adult. Then they get to be an adult, and you wish someone let you go to bed. You wish someone fed you every day. You wish. You wish you had to go to school for 3 hours or for 6, 7 hours as opposed to work for 10.
Hey, Britton, you'd be willing to squeeze up in a car seat now if you had an opportunity, huh?
If you had the chance, I would definitely be somebody else's problem right now.
That's right.
But that's the interesting thing, and every time we give kids advice about that, we tell them, don't rush to get old, take your time. But one of the things that we really want them to understand is to appreciate the process and everything you need to learn going through to the next steps. Everything that will make you a better adult. And that's why I appreciated every opportunity I've had to represent my fraternity, represent my organization, utilize all my skill sets and assets, both politically, socially, to prepare me to handle that next level, that next stage. So it's really more so not which problem that I wanted, it was how to appreciate the process and deal with the next plateau.
So you have to appreciate the process. And I think that's excellent. And hopefully our listeners really can appreciate that little nugget of wisdom. And I think as we talk about...
Let me say this. One thing about Britton, though, when he gets disconnected, but when he comes back, he usually has some real good stuff.
He does.
So, yeah, that was good, Britton. Change the theme and everything.
Right, well,
Appreciate the process.
Right.
What it took for me, y'all want the problem of me being in the studio,
Right.
but you got to appreciate the process of me being on the road.
But here's the thing. We have to see problems as part of the solution, right? I think we fall in love with the end result. We see Ted, say, I want to be like Ted. He's got this big time CEO company, or hey, I want to be like an author like Eric. But I think you have to see the problems as a part of the solution. And anybody that's at a level you aspire to, they're probably solving bigger problems. They're probably dealing with more problems. They're helping more people.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the key. And the focus on, I always say, clarity is the starting point of success. To get clear on your purpose. Because more than likely, your purpose has something to do with solving bigger problems and helping more people.
Good point.
Right.
That's the takeaway. And I think if you do that, if you're asking that question and you understand the trade-offs, you will be driven to succeed.
I agree.
And speaking of being driven to succeed, I think this is the perfect time to introduce our guest.
All right.
That's the title of one of her books, Driven to Succeed.
Driven to Succeed.
Like how I worked that in there.
All
All right.
Some prep work. You did a little prep work.
I decided to do some homework this week.
So,
All
so
right.
you didn't do like me, just jump on just jump in, read the bio on the way here.
All
That's
right.
a little different than me.
Yeah, I decided to prepare.
All right.
So our guest, she's an educator,
Okay.
consultant, she's a speaker, she's a best-selling author, and she's the founder of Aunt Hattie's Place.
All right.
In 2018, she was nominated and inducted into the Maryland Women's Commission Hall of Fame. She served as a tenured professor of education at Coppin State University for 22 years. She has the distinction of being the first female vice president at Coppin State in the university's 100-year history. She's the author of Driven to Succeed, Lessons Learned Through Faith, Family, and Favor. And she's also written a cookbook titled Aunt Hattie's Cookbook. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Dr. Hattie Washington.
Hello, everyone. It's my dear pleasure to be with you today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And before I get started, Eric, I'd like to congratulate you on the many things you're doing in the community to give back and to let your mission of discipline and procrastination be professed and profound throughout the community. Because in my years of teaching teachers and raising foster boys and raising two accomplished daughters, believe you me, procrastination is one of those skills that everybody has unless they're conscious of trying to overcome it. And there is a way to overcome it, and you have a wonderful strategy for that. So I want to congratulate you on the things you're doing, and also your whole team.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. And it's truly an honor. Dr. Washington and I met a couple of years ago at a book signing, and she's just so positive and so inspirational. And I think we have to have her on the show. So I'm really looking forward to us talking. So Aunt Hattie, that's how we know Dr. Washington. Aunt Hattie.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself growing up in the country, and your school closed down in 1959 due to the resistance of the Brown versus Board of Education case. So tell us about that experience and how the school closing in Prince Edward County impacted your life.
Well, that's at the point I started the book, because I just felt for years after my two-room schoolhouse closed down in Prince Edward County, and I was 11 years old, didn't know too much about racism at the time, didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew my father, being one of the deacons in the church, was going to a lot of meetings. And they were meeting in churches and homes, and so we knew something was up, but we didn't know exactly what it was. And so my father called all of us together and said, Hattie, called me sister, you and Terry and Jean and Junior boys, my brother, are going to Norfolk. And the other kids were my half-brothers. They're going to Baltimore. And I didn't understand what and why, when he explained to me that the schools would be closing in the fall. And didn't know how long they were going to be closed. At that time, they ended up being closed for 5 years. And I would be staying with my mother's sisters. Now, of course, my mother died when I was 3, so I never met my mother's sisters. The only mother I knew was my stepmother. So I found out that the schools were closing. I was going out of town, and then my stepmother was not my real mother. So to find out all of that at one time, I was devastated.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and I'm staying with strangers, so I really became a foster kid. And so that impacted me so for all of my teenage years in Norfolk, going to Jacob Elementary School and Abraham Lincoln and Booker T. Washington High School. I was in a trance, and I didn't know it until, you know, as you became an adult and you found out that you really didn't want to make any friends because you were afraid they were going to be taken away from you. You just didn't want to get involved with any activities because I didn't feel like I belonged. And then I stayed with an aunt who didn't believe in education, who didn't come out to anything I had in school. And so it was really a traumatizing time. And sometimes you didn't know you're traumatized until you become grown and you look back at your life and say, you know, I was really traumatized. And that's why I did this. And as a result of that, caused me to open up a foster boys home when I became an assistant superintendent of schools at Baltimore City. When I met foster kids that didn't have a home, didn't know where they're going to sleep that night, and you look around in your school system and you say, where are these kids? Oh, they're in a foster home, so they've now moved to another foster home. Or they moved to another foster home. I was so interested in where did they move? Nobody knew. So one of the first things I did was met with Kurt Schmoke, who was the mayor at the time, and the judge. I want to know where every one of my foster kids went, that they moved to another group home or foster home. And I want you to send a taxi, a van, or something to get my kids to bring them back to my same school. I'm still where they live now. So that's how I got started with foster kids. And then later, I just thought, well, let me take them home for one night. And then the one night became 1 week, 1 month, and then 22 years later, I've raised over 100 foster boys.
Wow.
So, as you said, the way you grow up sometimes impact who you are and make you do the things that you know in your heart you've got to do, whether you consciously felt you were born to do them. No one would ever told me I would have been opened up a group home for kids, while at the same time I'm the vice president of Coppin State. Now, how big is that? And I was in charge of raising the money.
Wow.
So God put it on my heart to do, and so He made the whole process very successful.
Wow. And so, for 22 years, you've been doing this. You've got young men from ages of 8 to 21 So why was it these boys / young men and not girls?
I taught special education once I graduated from Norfolk State with the BS in elementary education and a minor in special ed. I did my student teaching in a special education school, and I found out that many of those kids in special ed were black males, but they were smart as they could be. They just had behavior problems.
Right.
And I could reach those boys. And so I decided that when I found most of the foster kids in my school system when I was the vice president of Clemson State, and prior to that, assistant superintendent for Baltimore City Schools, most of the foster kids were boys. And so I thought if I could save the boys and put them on the right track, I don't care how disruptive girls are, they usually bounce back a little faster than the boys. And most of the special ed classes I taught were mostly boys who were very smart, just behavior problems, knucklehead behavior problems. But I could handle them. So I thought if I could keep them 24/7 and give them a good home, select the schools, since I was training the teachers anyway at Compton, put them in the schools where I trained the teachers. And then we could maybe turn these boys around and put them on the right track. So that's why I try to keep boys, not girls.
So I remember being at they were doing like a retirement celebration for you at Coppin State, and you had one of the young men who was in your program stand up, and this really inspired me. That I guess he was really troubled when he first went to your house, and then now he's this productive member of society with a family of his own, and that really moved me. I'm sure you have hundreds of success stories like that. Is there one in particular that stands out to you of someone that you saved?
Oh my goodness. Well, let me tell you about that young man. That young man went to a school on the east side of Baltimore. He was hanging around with a bunch of boys, and he was a smart kid, but he would not want those boys to see him with a book. So if he had, because all of my boys had to have a book with them at all times. I don't want to see a ball without a book.
Wow.
So he had to have a book. So he would hide his book from his friends. And one of the friends saw the book one day and said, "Oh, you acting white. So you read it." And so he said, "No, that's not my book. That's not my book." To make a long story short, he was suspended from school for some reason hanging out with these kids. So he came to Comp and sat in front of my desk, because I was vice president at the time. And I said, "You are too smart to hang around with those young men if they're not going anywhere. You are a brain in your head, you got a head on your shoulders." And so I said, "So when I come back," I was on my way to the Philippines to do a keynote speech. I said, "So when I come back, we're going to go out to your school and talk about what's going on." So when I was in the Philippines, I was a keynote speaker, and I said in my speech, have a young man who was very smart and doesn't want anybody to see his books and blah, blah, blah. So the president of the University of the Philippines came up to me and she said, "You know, we are Jesuit University." I said, "Well, no, I didn't know that." She said, "We have a connection in Maryland, and so I make a connection for your kid." And I said, "Okay, well, I didn't know what you meant." So when I got back, I got a call from Cabot Hall, from the headmaster over there. He said, "I understand you got a kid you want to get in a different environment." And I didn't know anything about Cabot Hall, which is one of those pristine private schools for boys.
Right.
So they wanted him to come over and interview him and take a test. He aced the test.
Wow.
Aced the test. They accepted him at Cabot Hall. He became the captain of the football team, the captain of the basketball team, the A student, and won was the unsung hero of the year with a full 4-year scholarship to college. And so that was that one kid. He's now at Johns Hopkins, and he's an engineer. Then he just changed to pharmacy. But one of the first kid I got in my home, who never stayed in a Hattie's place, stayed in my own personal home, he now is an IT guru. I said guru because he just got promoted to go to Austin, Texas, to head up an office in Austin, Texas, I think with 28 people under him who graduated from Compton in IT. And this kid came to me in special ed, mother's on drugs and one thing. So he is one of the unsung hero of a case study. Another one of my boys, first kid I got at Hattie place, was 8 years old at the time, in special ed, on medication. Now he is a teacher, graduated from Compton, all A's, a teacher in Florida, and just told me a couple of weeks ago that he's being tapped as assistant principal of the school. He's only been teaching 3 years. So just to give you an idea of what can happen to our young men, we give them the right environment, the right training, and give them a high expectation goal, and they do rise to the occasion. So that's just a few. I can talk about, in fact, I'm going to do a book. I think I'm going to pick 20 of them and do an anthology. And just tell them where they were, how they, what they think they got from Manhattan Place, and then where they are now, and how they plan to give back to the community. So I'm working on that book as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, the impact you're having on lives, I mean, that's a generational impact because they're positively impacting the people coming after them. And it all started with you reaching out to them.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
All of these boys are the first in their family to finish high school.
Wow.
And then they'll be the first, of course, in their family to finish college. So look at that legacy to these kids and their families, because they're going to raise kids who are going to be understood that they're going to go to college. Or, and I always tell them, you don't have to go to a 4-year college. You can go to a community college, you can go to, but I want you to go someplace. So when I take them into my boys' home, I give them that interview. You know, you're going to go someplace. If you don't want to go to college, you don't want to finish high school, this is Unhappy Place, not the place for you. You can go and be nothing someplace else. But I know you got the skills, and you just need a helping hand, not a handout. So this is the place for you, but you're going to have to work for it, and you can do it. But you got to first believe it, be willing to put forth the work, and then you will succeed.
That's amazing. I'm just sitting here thinking about everything that you're saying and thinking about how many young men, young boys across the country that have probably been in situations where, you know, they were seen as someone in special ed, didn't think that they had what it really took, and then didn't get the opportunity to have a kind of an interaction with on Hattie's Place. You know, what could happen with many of those and others. And I mean, how do you take this type of concept and, you know, kind of, you know, reach more?
Right.
Well, in my book, I talk about how anybody can create winners, not wait to pick winners. Because if you wait to pick them, they may not be there. We have to create our winners. And I talk about how I tell my kids right from the beginning who they are, like accepting them into a Hattie Place. You're smart, you're beautiful, you're great, you're nice, you're handsome. And one of them said to me one Thanksgiving, she said, we're going to add this to our, I call it Unhappy's Place. I'm great, I'm smart, I'm nice, and I'm handsome. They added that.
Okay.
and I'm and then they added, and I'm thankful. And I said that we can go. So we have a right over the mirror in my boys' home. As you go out the door to school, we have the Unhappy Place. I'm great, I'm smart, I'm nice, I'm handsome, and I'm thankful. So they look at themselves in the mirror when they walk out the door, just in case somebody does not know who you are. They see you as a foster kid. You know who you are. You're great, you're smart, you're nice, you're lovable. We had that too. And then you are handsome and you're thankful. And so you can take a kid from any place and bring them to the standard. One of my boys, all of my boys knew no earrings. We're not having any earrings. We're not having any pants hanging down to your backside. I better not see your underwear. We're not having any hats on backwards. And you're going to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am to the staff and the board members and any supporters. No, yeah, no, How do you spell that? Speak English. You say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And then, of course, they had to get a haircut every 2 weeks. Now, those were my standards. So one of them came to me one time with some dread, and I said, look, let me tell you why these are my standards. I've been in administration too long. So I've seen how people discriminate against you anyway because you're African American. But you go in there with earrings and tattoos and your dreadlocks, they won't ever tell you why you never got the job. Things have changed there since then. And I said, so you're going to go in there, they're going to look at you for who you are, your potential. You're not going to put your foot in the door if you go in already with disclaimers that they don't want. So that's why we did that. And so one kid had dreads, and I said, well, I don't think this is a good fit. So the social worker took him outside. He said, I ain't going to cut my hair. I ain't going to cut my hair. I said, that's okay. I said, well, he doesn't have to come here. We got a line of 10 people waiting to come in and have it. We had to keep waiting this. And so the social worker took him outside and shook him. She said, do you know how long I've been trying to get you just to get in front of her and have it? She said, I don't want to say it's on the air, but she said, cut your hair on your other part of your body. She said, you cut your hair.
They gotta go.
I'm just trying to get you in a hair place.
That's right.
So he came, he said, I'll cut my hair. I said, no, we're not making people do anything they don't want to do. This has to come from you. I said, so, the other group homes that take young men just like that. So I said, but it was nice knowing you. I shook his hand and I gave him a hug. So before the lady took off, he jumped out the car and came back on. He said, I had it. I want to stay here. I really want to stay here. He said, I want to be somebody. He said, I don't want to be like my uncle, my daddy, my cousin, they're all in jail. He said, I want to be somebody.
Wow.
He said, so anything you tell me to do, I do it. I said, are you sure? He said, yes, ma'am. He said, I said, excuse me? He said, yes, ma'am. And he came and he got his haircut with all the boys. He kept the dress for a week. Because every 2 weeks he got a haircut. And he got his haircut. A boy he couldn't get out in front of the mirror. He just thought he was so handsome. Oh, I just love my haircut. I just love my haircut. I said, you certainly look handsome. But in any event, those are the standards that our young men went through, and we took them to a concert once a month. We took them to a symphony. We took them to plays, and they would dress up in a shirt and tie. And, can you imagine taking 28 African Americans? I had 3 homes. Dressed up in a shirt and tie to a symphony. Everybody wants to know, who are these young men? They're so well dressed and so well mannered, and everybody just wants to know who they were. These unheaded, we call them the super kids. Unheaded super kids. And I write about it in the book as to how people can take the worst kids, that people that said they were worst kids, how you can turn them around. And some of the boys, I would say 90% of the boys, when they came to unheaded place, on some type of medication.
Wow.
For hyperactivity. And I asked the boy, I said, why are you on medicine? He said, because I'm bad. I said, is that why you're taking medicine? Yes, ma'am. That's what the social worker told me. I said, well, if you're not sick, we're going to wean you off of that medication. If you're sick, that's a different story. But I don't have bad boys. I don't have kids taking medication because they're hyperactive. You get out there and play basketball and swimming, put you in all kinds of active stuff. So I like a happy, active kid. When I was teaching special ed, I told my parents, don't put kids on medication when they come to my classroom, please. Because I don't want a kid sleeping all day because of the medication. I want a real live kid and I can deal with them because I may have the teaching skills to deal with them. So it's interesting how you work with young men and kids, period, and you find out they have so many gifts and talents that aren't tapped because someone has told them, for special ed, you're bad, you're not going to be anything, and they believe it, when I just turn it around and say, okay, let me tell you who you are. And then that's who they become.
You know, and I think it's society is always trying to get you to accept a label, right? You're special ed, you're
Oh, my
this.
goodness. That's what the school system is about, and I fought against it when I was assistant superintendent. Don't put any kids in special ed. I told the teacher, "Okay, you can tell me why you can't deal with the 11, 12-year-old kids. You got a master's degree.
Hmm.
So why you have to put them in a place? Special education is a service. It's not a place. So why you gonna put them in a place and somebody have their own excuse now why they can't teach them because they're in special ed? So don't put any kids in special ed. So in my school system, I rearranged my whole school system where I put my best teachers at the special ed kids because that's where they're needed. You don't need my master teachers teaching the gifted and talented. I need you down to teach the kids in special ed. And I give you more money, then at first, like, I don't want to teach you. Then I was going to get $500 more each semester. Well, I'll try. So I don't want you to tell me you can teach these kids. Then, okay, I can teach them. Yeah, because I got a nephew especially. Yeah, I can teach them. Okay, well, let's see. Because, see, you have to give some incentive before teachers want to have a challenge because that means you got to work.
Right.
And so that's different things I did at the school system level and as well as at the university level.
Excellent. And so you wrote an award-winning memoir about your different experiences. It's titled Driven to Succeed, an inspirational memoir of lessons learned through faith, family, and favor. So tell us what's so inspiring about your memoir and tell us about some of the recognitions and awards that book has gotten.
Well, we won as a featured author for the Congressional Black Caucus, and twice. The book won in 2016 and again in 2017. And then I won as featured author in the Association for the Study of African American Life and Culture for Driven to Succeed book. And just last year, my cookbook won an award because the theme was Black migration. And my recipes migrated up from the South, and when we ate everything from the garden, from the orchard, and the barnyard. So my cookbook fit right into their theme of Black migration. So I've been blessed that both of my books thus far have won national awards and up for NAACP award, and now I've been asked to come to Charleston, South Carolina for the Scholar National Conference to present my cookbook for the Southern people who love to cook and love to have cookbooks. So I've just been blessed to have those two books, and not only are they good books in themselves, the proceeds from the book are going to my Aunt Hattie scholarship fund at Compton State, whereby any foster kid can go to college and can be paid for, because all foster kids have to stay on campus. So you're basically homeless when you age out at 18. Mm-hmm. So most foster kids don't go to college because they can't afford to stay on campus, because that's where they have to stay. Not only do they have to stay on campus, but during the holidays and summer, when the other kids go home, they don't have a home to go to. Mm-hmm. So at Compton State, I pay for my boys to stay on campus during the holidays and weekends and during the summer. And since everybody knows me there, they take the boys in and give them a little job to do, and they clean up the dorm and help around where they can get extra money so that they can, buy the food and different things they need to do. But the scholarship fund helps to pay for those days when they're on campus, have to live on campus, as well as the tuition.
All right. I know Britton, you wanted to chime in. Britton, what questions do you have for Dr. Washington?
Once again, hello, Dr. Washington. First off, I'm very appreciative and honored of all your efforts, because I know that they are truly reforming the community. And it's interesting, as I advocate in the criminal justice space, looking to close that school to prison pipeline. Your work is actively and effectively doing that. And you mentioned something about the difference between the education culture today from what we're seeing today in schools versus some years previous. Do our schools really train students today to succeed as a whole, holistically across the school board? We know some of the things that are happening through Southern Maryland, but are there some things nationwide? Are our schools really preparing our students to stay away from that school-to-prison pipeline and succeed?
I talk about a lot of the things in my book, The Blueprint, and just quickly, schools are not doing all that they can do, and I don't want to say schools as if it's the building. It's just so much that teachers need that they don't get. You have a lot of teachers who got the skills and they got the heart, but they're beat down so much with all the paperwork they have to do, all of the extra things they have to do, the lack of pay. They have to spend their own money on different things because they don't get the materials and the resources they need. And they don't get the help that they need with kids. They may have some discipline problems, and the teachers may not know what to do. They don't get the training. And one of the things I used to do is train all of my teachers myself. I did something very radical to the point that some of the principals called the mayor. I gave teachers more money than I gave the principals. I said, because I need the money in the classroom where the teachers are teaching the kids. I don't need to pay my principals walking around the hallway, and many times not even in the school. I said, and the vice principal is the one that's running the school for the most part in terms of discipline. I said, so I'm going to give, and the reason I did this, I asked my principals, I said, how many of you will go back to the classroom if I gave you the same money that I'm giving you now as a principal? And I had about 67% of the principals raise their hands. Because I really enjoy teaching, but they made me a principal. So I told the principals, now those who want to go back to the classroom, you will get the same money you're getting, because I'm putting the money in the classroom where my teachers are. So that's one of the reasons that schools are not doing what they could be doing, because their teachers are being evaluated, or if the kids aren't learning, the teachers are being evaluated, and yet the teachers aren't given the resources to bring those kids up. And now that special education is part of the regular classroom. They got these kids now that institutionalized into the regular classroom. And now teachers haven't gotten too much training on how to deal with them. They're being evaluated on how the students are achieving. The special education students are being tested now when they weren't before. They're tested with the regular kids to bring the teachers' reports down. So teachers are just getting frustrated. So I just believe if I were more in charge now, I would right the whole ship and give the teachers the money. One of the things I did do when I was assistant superintendent, I wrote a grant. And that was when we were getting ready to integrate special education into regular classrooms, and teachers weren't trained. I gave teachers, I did a cohort of 100 teachers a year, and they could take a master's degree course in special education free, and I gave them a stipend. But they had to teach at least 10 special education kids in their regular classroom for that master's degree, and they had to do it for 5 years. And then I did another grant where the teachers' aides could get a BS degree in special education, but they also had to agree to teach at least 10 special education kids in a regular classroom. Oh, I had a whole slew of people wanting to do that, but at first, they said, I don't want to teach those special ed kids in the regular classroom. If I wanted a degree in special education, I would have gotten it. I got a degree, and they were just going on. So, but when I got that grant, and I only wanted a cohort of 100, oh, I want to teach special ed, that's watching, oh, I want to teach special ed, oh, I love those kids, I really love those kids. So that's how we instituted special ed in Baltimore City, and we were very successful. So teachers are not getting what they ought to get. So no, the school system is not doing what's right. Because I don't think many school systems know what to do. You know, I told a principal, I said, you can't evaluate teachers unless you can get in the classroom and demonstrate to them what they didn't do that you evaluate them on. So if you can't demonstrate, then you shouldn't evaluate them. So I train all my principals what to look for. And when I go to evaluate my principals, I would just watch them, how they evaluate the teachers, and watch them demonstrate the lessons, because I taught them how to do that. But we need that systemically. We need it all over the state, all over the country, and give the teachers more money, and the teachers will use their skills and won't get so burnt out how to deal with these kids. And I need to tell the teachers how to teach kids from a positive standpoint. I had a program that I implemented in Virginia Beach, and it was ask not if they are gifted, ask how they are gifted. And I gave them 13 domains of giftedness, and every kid is gifted in at least 3 of those domains, not just academic. They are gifted in other domains if you know what to look for. So the whole school system had to come up with 3 domains for each kid is gifted. Don't tell me well, this kid is not gifted at all. No. Every kid is gifted in something. That's no more than lunch and recess. You at least 3 years. That kids like to do and can do and call it a gift.
Those were my gifts early in my career.
Same gifts for me. Matter of fact, they're my gifts today as well.
If he's a gang leader, that's a gift. He's a leader.
Yeah.
And you got to turn it around and make him the leader of your class.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just something that teachers need to be trained and paid and tell the kids who they are, and they will rise to the occasion.
So
this needs to be done nationwide.
So, and I think that's what you said is very interesting. So the teachers should really approach the students with the working off the assumption that they are gifted, not asking if they're gifted.
They are.
I mean, that's a game
And
changer.
you know, one of the things I did when I was a professor at Compton, when my grad students walked in my classroom, I tell them, everybody, I told them to the A class. And they said, oh, I'll be satisfied with the C. I see the wrong class. This is the A class. Now you already got an A. Everybody has an A in here already. You just have to keep it. So that means everything you pass into me should be a C. And if it's not an A, I'm going to give it back to you and let you correct it, and you can turn it in again. So this is only an A class. But you learn from your mistakes. Look at your mistakes, what did you didn't do. So if I'm willing to grade it again, you'll be willing to do it again. If you're not willing to do it again, then get the heck out of my class. And you shouldn't be a teacher. So we don't need mediocre teachers teaching kids to be excellent.
Wow.
And so what I mean, my students just love to redo stuff, and then they go back to their classroom and look at a kid who got a D and say, well, you know, redo that again. You know, you can do that again, do it again. So, okay, good. So if he got a D, he didn't understand it. Now he understands it. Why don't you let him do it and get an A? You're not a teacher till someone has learned what you taught. So if you're satisfied with your kids getting a D, then you're not really a teacher. Who knows how many times it may take a kid to do stuff? If he takes him 3 times, then let him do 3 times. As long as he gets it, that's why those kids do so well on all of my students who took my class. Those kids do so much better on the state test because they use my triple E concept. Excellence is expected from everyone. That's my concept that I write about in my book. And you allow the kids to do it again if they make a mistake. That's why pencil has an eraser. Because you're going to make a mistake. We make a mistake as adults. You write a paper, you misspell a word, you kick, you say, oh my God, why did I know better? Why did I do that? Well, so what? make it correct. Do it again. And then you got your A. So I punish the person because they made the mistake when they know the answer now. So, teachers got to change. Kids make a D and you give them a D and the kids ball the paper up and throw it in the trash can. But my faulty boys, because I had another concept for them for making A's. They would go back and catch the teacher. Go, Miss Jones, can I redo this paper? I know what my mistake is now. Can I redo it? The teacher say, yeah, but you're not going to give you another grade. And they said, I don't worry about that because I had to give us $10 for every A and $5 for every B. And if you made a C, they owed me 20. And I call it easy learn. Earn as you learn. And I got that concept with my granddaughter, my nieces and nephews in Virginia Beach. Everybody knows to call on Hattie to give me the report. I had 10 A's and 6 A's and 2 B's. That's how much they're owing. Add it up. And so I paid out money to everybody, even the kids in my church. So they know education is an investment. And so I paid them for that called earn as you learn. And so if the teacher doesn't change the grade, they don't care because they got their $85 for my ass. So they were earning so much money. I said, don't get such good grades. You're all breaking the bank. Give me some C's. So y'all can owe me some money. Now I had it. We want A's and B's. I said, y'all breaking the bank. I got to get a loan from you all to pay you. And what I loaned you some of my money. I said, okay, you got that much, huh? So, it's just something that you got to come up with techniques for kids who want to learn. And that's what I've always used. My daughter, one's a doctor, one's a physician, and one's an attorney. I use that on them all the way through middle school, high school, and even college, law school, and medical school. So, it works.
So
When kids ought to learn because it's the right thing to do, they'll just want to learn. Okay, well, do you want to go to work if you like your job if they're not paying you? In fact, I really think kids ought to get paid to go to school. If you tell the truth, pay them to go to school. Why not? And then pay them over the grade.
Dr. Washington, I am definitely putting you down as a recommendation for every civic board, school board, and economic council there is.
Well, I was
But look, I got some ideas. When I was asked to serve on the National Maryland Association for Youth and Families, I said, well, you all don't really want to hear what I have to say. You're not going to put my name on just to say my name. Well, you don't need to come to the meetings. I'm going to read you want to put your name. No, it doesn't work that way. If I have some ideas and you all don't adhere to them, then why am I serving on your committee? Because I have some ideas over the years that will work. And people will just do it. Oh, no, that's politically, that's not political. Not politically correct right now. It's not election year. Well, the kids are here now. Teachers being evaluated on now. I'm not caring about it's not political year, not election year yet. That's the next 4 years. You could have lost a soul by that time. So yeah, I have a lot of ideas as to what work with my kids. One of the things with my daughter who's a lawyer and my one who is a doctor, first year of medical school, I went out and got her a desk sign that said Sherelle A. Washington, M.D. And put it in her room at the medical school. She said, Mom, it's kind of early. I said, no, it's not. This is what I want you to see yourself as. Sherelle A. Washington, M.D. And she kept looking at beautiful signs and put on your desk. And for my daughters in law school, I got her some business cards. Cheryl Y. Washington, Esquire. Graduate May 1997. This is like 1995. So she said, Mom, I said, pass your cards out. That's who you're going to become. And I get you some when you graduate. So you got to have kids to see who they are, who they can be, who they're going to be. And then they keep looking at those cards and say, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. And so they give us all kinds of awards. And one of the things I'm going to do a book about all of the poems that I used to put around my daughter's room in Charlottesville when she was at UVA medical school. Don't quit. And this, that, and this poem, positive, this, that, and the other. Just to, and they were there, and she would see them, but not see them. But then later she told me, she said, Mom, all those poems just kind of stuck in my head. When I wanted to give up, I just saw this poem, I saw this other poem, and this poem. So I'm going to gather all those poems and put them in a book for parents and kids who just need something to inspire them. And sometimes just a word or two that you need to put you over the hump of I would give up, but I thought about that poem. The phenomenal woman, or this, that, and the other. The boys had, the phenomenal black man. And what is a boy versus what is a man? And, they see these things and they say, I am a man. That's who I want to be. I want to be a man, not a boy. And we talked about the difference between the two. And just different things like that. I want to just share as much as I can now that I'm retired and I have more time to do that sort of thing.
So Dr. Washington, you mentioned that at certain times you had some of the foster boys living in your home. Like what was a normal day like with? I guess at some point you probably had your foster boys as well as your daughters, and you had like this extended family. I mean, like what was a normal day like?
Well, first of all, when I first started, if you read the book, the story goes, I was driving from one of my schools and I saw these 3 boys on the corner in the middle of the day. And I looked at my watch, it was like 1 o'clock. And I'm thinking, this is my district. Why are these kids standing on the corner? And so I stopped the car and said, excuse me, why are you out of school? And they just looked at each other and then looked at me. I said, I'm talking to you. Pardon me? I said, why are you out of school? And who are you? I said, I'm the assistant superintendent and this is my district and you standing on my street in the middle of the day. I just want to know, why are you out of school? Still in one of my schools. And I said, well, we're foster kids. I said, so what do you mean? He said, well, we don't have an address, so we don't know what school we're supposed to go to. I said, what do you mean you don't have an address? He said, well, we don't have an address. I said, so where do you live? And he pointed to one of the other guys. He said, we lived in his grandmama's basement. And I said, oh, so the grandmama knows you there? He said, no, ma'am. I said, oh, so you just, so why are you out of school? He said, well, I ran away from one group home and I ran away from a foster home, and so we just have not gone to school. And this was like February, and they haven't been in school since October. So I said, get in the car. So now I said, get in the car. And they reluctantly got in the car. And I think back, and somebody said, those kids could have strangled you and killed you and so on. But I'm from the country. Everybody knew everybody. So I didn't have to see these 12, 13-year-old boys. So I got in the car and I was taken back to my office. And one said, Miss, could we get some food? We haven't eaten all day. I said, okay. So we stopped by McDonald's, got them some food. Then I took them back to my office and I told the secretary to call social service. And so we did. And so they said, who is it? And I told them, they said, well, yeah, they run away. So we catch up with them when we can because they've been running away. So a lot of paperwork. So we get them when we can. So I said, well, I have them. So when you get me, I left my number and everything. I'm thinking they're going to call me later that day, certified the next day. So I thought I'd take them home for one night. Now, of course, my daughter's there by this time in college. So I got 3 empty bedrooms. So I took them home, washed the clothes, and gave them talk about, who they are, what they can become, and so on. And so I took them back with me, because now I'm the assistant superintendent. So I took them with me to one of my principal schools, and I gave them to him. I said, I got 3 foster boys in our school since October. Give them one of your best teachers. Here's the social worker's number. And I gave them your number, so if they call, get a home, then, just let me know so I can take them back to the board. Well, at the end of the day, social work hadn't called. The boys are still there. So I picked them up, took them back home, and this went on for several weeks. Hadn't heard from social service. And I would take them to the school board meeting, and I gave them an assignment. At that time, they had the Polaroid cameras. You buy the disposable cameras. So I got each one a camera. I said, take pictures at the school board meeting, and I want you to interview. I gave each person an interview. I want you to write it up and tell me what you asked them and what did they say and so on. And boy, I was so blown away with their skills that, oh, they just got to hang up. They just thought they were little reporters. And they were interviewing the various person and had to write it up when they got home. And I said, these kids are not dumb at all. So after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I heard from social service, you got foster boy you took home? I said, yeah. I've been waiting for you. I said, you can't just do that. You just can't take foster kids home. You got to be licensed. I said, well, I don't plan to keep them. You're waiting for you on a call. They said, well, in the meanwhile, you got to be licensed to be a foster. Otherwise, you have to let them go. I said, what do you mean let them go? Go where? Are you ready for them? They said, well, no, we haven't gotten around to that yet. I said, well, come on out and whatever you need to do. So they came out and measured my house and checked the refrigerator temperature and the water temperature and got down on their knees and measured the room size. And I said, tell me something. These boys were on the corner. Didn't have any place. And now I have a daughter in law school, one in medical school, and you got to measure the same rooms they stayed in before they went off to college. Does that make any sense? They said, well, no, it's just what we got to do. So my house became certified to keep foster kids that were hanging on the corner. And so after several months, and I decided to just keep them. Then I said, okay, I'm still assistant superintendent. I long board meetings, and I hired a nanny and housekeeper so they could keep the boys while they were doing the homework. Then I decided to open up a group home because I needed a staff and more work. So I opened up a group home. So that was how that all started with Unhappy Place. That's how I started keeping them in my home first. Then eventually opened up a group home, which took me 3.5 years to go through the regulations to open up a group home. I told them, I don't want to do a business. I just want to keep some kids. No, you got to have a business for a group home. You got to have a workbook and an employee's manual. You got to do this and you got to do that. And oh my Lord! So by this time I am the vice president of Cotton State. So at the same time as vice president raising money, I'm opening up a group home, which took me 3.5 years to do. So again, if the law puts something on your heart, if I'd known it was going to take that long, I probably wouldn't have started. But sometimes, as the young man was saying earlier, when you go to the next level and you have more problems, if you know what the problem is going to be, you may want to stay there as an employee. But the advantages outweigh some of the disadvantages because you may be working for yourself, but you may not eat either. But you may be hungry, happy, as opposed to being full and depressed on a job that you feel that you're not being utilized, your talent.
Hungry, happy.
That's how I ended up keeping the boys and then started a group home, and the rest 22 years later, over 100 foster boys.
It's an amazing story. Wow.
Yeah, what a great story. And so you mentioned earlier that you're donating the proceeds of your books to Aunt Hattie's scholarship. Can you tell us how can people contribute to your scholarship?
Yes, they can go to my website, which is www.drhnwashington.com. D like in David, R Roy, H for my first name, N as in Nancy, Washington.com. And on my website, it has a link there. If you want to donate, you can click that link and go straight to the scholarship fund at Coppin State University. And it's tax deductible, and you get a thank you letter from Coppin State University Development Foundation, and the money's going to the scholarship fund. And they give a report, every month who has donated. So in addition to them writing a thank you letter, I also turn around and write a thank you letter to them as well.
That is great. So drhnwashington.com is the site where people can go.
Website. And you can also purchase the books from that website as well.
Fantastic.
Or Amazon. They should be on Amazon as of July the 2nd, because I just formed my own publishing company, and the book is being revised and reprinted under my publishing company, Washington Publishing Enterprises.
Mm.
Both the cookbook and Driven to Succeed will be now under my publishing company. Can be ordered from Amazon as of July the 2nd, but right now you can get them from my website. And when you get them from my website, they're autographed by me personally.
All right.
I'm gonna ask this question. I know Brittany, I know this is a question you're very interested in. Dr. Washington, in the cookbook, what are some of those dishes in there?
Woo, boy. Well, my famous one that everyone loves is my homemade bread pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then my 3-cheese mac and cheese, my home fried potatoes. I give you recipe for sweet potatoes fried. I don't know if you've had fried sweet potatoes.
Mm.
Or fried white potatoes with smothered onions. And then my chili, oh my goodness. My chili was what my aunt in Norfolk, who had 3 stores, 3 restaurants. And people used to come from miles around for her chili dog.
Mm.
So I perfected her chili so that people didn't know whether it was my chili or her chili.
All right.
So many of the recipes are from the country, but also since I live with my aunt who had 3 restaurants, a lot of my recipes also came from her. But the country ones are the cobblers. You know, pick the pieces off the tree, a peach cobbler, a blackberry cobbler, apple cobbler, apple and pear cobbler. You ever had an apple and pear cobbler?
Never.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
Or mixed berries. You have the raspberries, the blackberries, and the gooseberries. Mixed berries, cobbler, or pies. And just the whole potato, sweet potatoes, and you have your what you call the turnovers, with apple turnovers and sweet potato turnovers. You have your succotash. Everything's fresh from the garden.
Mm.
And you have your omelets with the onions and the green peppers, red peppers, and all kinds of things from the garden. Fresh butter. Since you can't turn it from the cow, I have certain butters that I recommend for people to eat fresh. There are certain things that are good fat, and then there are bad fats. And in the back of my book, I have a whole directory of things that you can substitute, still eating healthy, by buying things from the store, since you're not living in the country now, but how you can still make healthy dishes and desserts so that you can taste the countryness of the Southern comfort foods, but not being as bad as people tend to make it. For instance, my bread pudding, I use 3 kinds of milk. I have almond milk, I have fat-free, lactate-free milk, and then I have carnation milk. And I have 3 kinds of sugar. I have honey, I have stevia, and then I have, you've heard of honey, stevia, then you've heard of, truvia. These are natural sugars mixed with honey, and you can't even tell that you're not eating sugar. Then I put plenty of eggs that are good for you in there, and when you eat this pudding, it's just so puddingy, and just, you can't figure it.
That's what I'm on, some pudding, boy. That's what I'm talking about. Boy, Dr. Washington, can you take me in? Can you take me in? I'm having some challenges. I just want you to take me in for a little while. You know, I want to start this thing all over again. Give me some pudding.
No,
What tops it off is my honey rum butter sauce.
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
The bread pudding. And people just, my faculty at conference is like, you gonna bring a bread pudding for the faculty meeting? I said, look now, you know, or you can bring your 3-cheese mac and cheese. Oh, how about your pot of chili? I said, you ought to know what you want. And so for my whole family, when I'm invited for Thanksgiving or just come down for a visit, it's like, now before you leave, you know you have to make one of those bread puddings so I can freeze it, or one of those mac and cheese, So I think I was invited for Thanksgiving dinner. I got to cook. You know good and well you're going to have to cook. So I've been cooking for years. I love cooking. It's like a therapy for me. And then I love people to enjoy my dishes. So I just decided I put all my recipes down in a cookbook for my grandkids because, you know, when I was talking about the country, they said, Grandma, you really caught a chicken, live chicken, and trucked the chicken? And they ate the chicken? I said, yes, baby, that's what we did in the country. They just couldn't fathom that, you know. Well, so when I go to the supermarket, the chicken, somebody plucked those chickens. I said, yep, that's what you're eating. Chicken that used to be running around in the yard. And
Wow.
then, you know, for them to see gardens and things of that sort, I said, let me write down things for grandkids or young people who don't know how to cook from scratch, a TV dinner or something that you jack in the box or something you put the water with, mashed potatoes, put the water with, they think that's home cooking. I said, no, that's not home cooking from scratch, baby. That is, I don't know what that is, but it's not healthy eating. You will eat Southern comfort food that's the old-fashioned way. Before there was such thing as organic. We were cooking organic in the country. Didn't know it's called organic. Only thing we got from the store was sugar and flour. Everything else we got from the garden, the tree, the orchard, or the barnyard, and chicken and the eggs, and killing the hogs every year. And you know, it just you didn't think about it. It just everything was fresh. I don't think I had a candy bar until I was probably 10 years old. And that was the man used to come around in his car called a Raleigh man. And he would sell different things for the household and so on. Then he had candy bars, the Mary Jane candy bars and the squirrel nuts and the BB bats. You remember those? You could get those there in Cracker Barrel. But and we had some extra money one time because a relative came down from Baltimore, always gives us some money. But I don't know what we're going to do with this money because, you know, no place to spend it. We live in the country. And boy, we ran to the Raleigh man, we all bought a candy bar on one of these chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, coconut bars, if you've seen those. And the Mary Jane and the squirrel. But boy, we thought we would have had something. This was the first time I had the real candy. Most of the time, you want something sweet, you're going to get a peach off the tree or eat an apple or pick some blackberries.
Right.
Or go out and get a tomato off the vine or watermelon.
But this is something. You was a vice president of Coppin and running a group, foster home, with tackling a chicken, and then tackled a chicken, stripped him down,
Wow.
and made a meal out of
At
it.
the same time. At the same time, Eric.
Oh my goodness.
That was before.
Okay.
Back in the day, but I'm from a two-room schoolhouse in the country. And we had an outhouse. We had two teachers. Mrs. Brown taught kindergarten to fourth grade in one classroom, and Mr. White taught the fifth grade to the eighth grade. So everything I learned as a teacher, I learned from Mrs. Brown. And when I hear teachers say, well, I've got one grade, and if all the kids on the same level in my fourth grade class, I could teach them, but they're all on different levels. I said, what if you had kindergarten and fourth grade in the same classroom? No, oh no, that's impossible. Oh, but I couldn't do that. Yes, you could. That's what Miss Brown did. The fourth graders would teach the second graders, and the third graders would teach the first graders. Because if you learn something, you turn around and teach somebody else. That's how I learned to be a teacher. That's why I want to be a teacher. So teachers, I tell them, if kids know something, and you got kids who don't know stuff, you let those kids mentor other kids. You can't try to teach them everything. Because I don't care how good you are a teacher, only 60% of the kids going to get what you taught them at any one time. Only 60. I don't care how good you think you are. They're on different levels. And then you got to circle back around to get those other 40% and keep the other 6% from being bored. Are you trying to reach all of them? How are you going to do that? You get some of those who already know it to work with some of the other kids that didn't get it. So what you're doing to those kids, they're reinforcing their knowledge.
Yeah.
And then the other kids feel good that they are teaching us by somebody that's their peer. And so it's just the way you got to know the techniques of teaching. These kids love to teach other kids something they've learned. And they're bored now because now you're trying to reach the other 80%, 90%, 100%. But now all these kids got to be tested. So you better try to reach those other 40% because those other 40% will keep your classroom from getting the score that they deserve. So it's like, oh, God, I got to teach those other 40%. Yes, you can't just teach the 6% that you're going to get. That's what it's all about. No child left behind. That's the law now.
Mm-hmm.
No child left behind, meaning the 100%. You got to reach all 100% of your kids.
So what
That's the way it is.
do you, Dr. Washington? Do you find, I see a theme through your life and through most people are trying to maintain the status quo and trying to do what's always been done and trying to take the same approach that's always been taken, but you seem to think differently. You seem to think outside of that box, to look at different ways to solve these problems. Is that something that you feel like you developed over time, or you've always just thought against the grain?
You know, when I was in that two-room schoolhouse, and Mr. White was absent one day, and Ms. Brown called on me out of all the kids to teach the 5th through the 8th grade. I'm thinking, why me? Why did she think, I'm in the 4th grade, so why did she think I could teach the 5th through the 8th grade? And Mr. White was absent, they didn't get substitutes in the country. And so I think since that time, I've known that God sort of had something in me that people saw in me. So if I felt like I didn't go along with something, I wouldn't join in. And then I found that teachers and different people come to me and say, Washington, what do you think? And I would just look. And I would say to myself, now, do you really want to know what I think? Or you just ask me?
Right.
And they would say, well, no, I really want to know what you think. And I would give them a whole different way of looking at it.
Right.
And they would say, think about it that way. But everybody else is going along to get along.
Mm-hmm.
And I never felt the need to do that. Maybe because I grew up in the country and pulled away, and I wasn't worried about making any friends, because I didn't want to really make any friends, because I just figured that I'm going to be pulled away from them like I pulled away from all my good friends down in the country. So I just did my own thing. I was a loner, didn't mind being a loner. A lot of people come to Washington, would you help me? I wasn't Washington. Neil, would you help me with my, they knew I was smart. Because I remember stuff and I made good grades, and so-called popular kids will come and pull me to Washington, Hattie, would you help me with this? And I can't seem to get my trigonometry. Would you help me with my chemistry? Would you? And I would, but I didn't really want to be their friend. So I was always somewhat different because I didn't feel the need to go along. If I had a thought about something, I'm not going to sit there and go along. I'd be silent first. And I think people could see the expression on my face like, well, I wonder what she's thinking. Just like when I became the vice president, my president gave me a $3 million goal, and I ended up raising $8 million because I felt $3 million, and I'm a vice president. You know, I got to prove that I earned my position, not that I applied for it, I was appointed. So, you know, people say, well, wonder why she got that, and who does she know, and so on. So that means I had to really prove that I knew what I was doing, which I really didn't, because I never, raised the money for it. And so I figured that the Lord put me in that position. So one of the first things I thought to do was to see how much money all the staff was giving. If you're working for a university and you're not giving any money, something wrong with that picture.
Right.
So I motivated everybody on campus. I said I want 100% participation of every last employee, from the townspeople, from the secretaries to the vice president. It is no more than $1. And if you don't have $1, I will loan you $1. But I want 100% participation participation of everybody, because when I go to Ford Motor Company, the Bank of America, the first thing they're gonna ask me is what percentage of your staff is giving money back to the college? And I'm gonna tell them 100%. Because if you don't have $1, I'm gonna loan it to you. And I know who you are because I got the list. And so they're like, whoa. So that was radical, you know, like no one's ever asked them for money before. Well, I can't raise any money and get money.